Thomas with the legend, Claudia Bellofatto. Claudes, I know you've been watching football all day today, just like I have. Before we break down Sunday night football, give me your takeaways from the early slate of games today.
Yeah, I have to say, I forgot the level of laziness that I have on Sundays. I looked down at my steps and I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I think that the only game that has really gone according to plan, it looks like, is this Miami Chargers game. High scoring affair. I thought it would be, I gave it an ultimate betting show for it to be the highest scoring game on Sunday. It looks like it's going to be that way. I had Bengals. Obviously, that was not the side. Only put up 3 points. Browns looked good. I don't know how much of that was that Joe Burrow's not 100%, or if just things weren't clicking. They couldn't get any momentum. So that was a bad beat there. Vikings, Bucks, that was a game I didn't expect, right? Yeah. So a lot of these games, we're already seeing the parity, right? And it is just week one. You don't want to overreact to anything. Ravens is the only one, too, that really went according to plan with the 25-9. That was the biggest spread on the board. But other than that, yeah, teams that were expected to look good aren't looking that great. This Eagles-Pats game is a good one. That first half, 2.5, sorry if you tailed me there, lost by the hook. Thought that was going to be totally fine until the end there. So good slate of games so far.
Listen, you brought up that Bengals loss. It looked to me like Joe Burrow should not have started this week. I mean, you saw him grimacing on the sideline, kind of rubbing his knee. Then he was on the exercise bike. He just was not prepared to play this game. They should have made that decision for him because these players want to play. And then here's the other one. How about my Saints? I kept telling you all offseason, keep your eye on this team, upgrading at quarterback with Derek Carr. They go out there and handle business against a Titans team that, while Ryan Tannehill is healthy, they're going to be in the game. You knew it was going to be a close one. Saints hang on and edge out the Titans. Keep your eye on Nolans. I keep telling you, Claudes, but let's get into.
You talked me into it. I'm on the Saints train now completely, so don't worry. I'm with you there.
All right, so let's talk about Sunday Night Football. I've been waiting all day for Sunday night. Giants host the Cowboys. Woo, Claudia, right now, Cowboys favored 2.5. The latest line on the game, total 46.5. Talk to me.
Man, I was waiting for you to sing it, the Carrie Underwood style. Waiting. Oh, come on, Trav. I was depending on you there. Hey. So yeah, it was open Cowboys 2.5. Seeing 3.5 pop up now, but pretty much 3 across. Big move on the total, which of course you don't want to bet this now. You are chasing the number. Open 47 down to 44.5. And everything that we've heard surrounding this Cowboys team in the offseason says that it's going to be a lower scoring game, despite how many points they put on the board last season, because Mike McCarthy is calling plays. He said he wanted to revamp this offense 100%. He wants to run the ball more. I'm sure they're going to be a little conservative because they don't want Dak throwing 15 interceptions again this season. So the under was the play for me, but unfortunately that number has run a bit.
I'm on the under. I mean, look, two great defenses here, and we know the divisional hatred that these two have. This isn't a rivalry. This is a hatred. I covered the NFC East for a long time, Claudia. These two teams, every team in that division hates each other, but these two teams especially hate each other. I'm on the under here. I don't know in terms of the side. I'm going to tell you something. I'm looking at this money line, Claudia. I mean, Giants plus 125 on the money line feels like it has my name all over it. And here's why. And you alluded to this. I mean, all offseason, Dak Prescott, high-powered offense, Mike McCarthy calling plays. Could it be the Cowboys' year? Could Dak win the MVP? Blah, 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 bliggity, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, last season, the Giants were a playoff team just like the Cowboys. Am I right?
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't really lose anything major this offseason. They figured it out with Saquon. They bring in Darren Waller. I actually think the Giants could win this game. They're at home. Claudia, plus 125 on the money line. Am I crazy to see value in that? Because I do.
You're not crazy. It's just kind of like when we talk Patriots, the thing that comes to mind is defense. And the majority of situations, Cowboys have the defensive edge. So that's my only fear with this Giants team. But hey, there is a lot of talent. We saw it last season. Daniel Jones is a good dynamic quarterback. He can use his legs, very athletic. So I would say because of the Cowboys' defensive advantage, I would shy away from taking the points, but season long, the Giants are a good dog for sure.
I will say this too. You look in that division I mentioned, Commanders won today. It looks as though the Eagles should handle their business against the Patriots. All of a sudden, Claudia, and I know it's early. Maybe it's overreaction. But the loser of this game, Claudia, I mean, they're starting behind the 8 ball in that division that is very tight. All those teams are pretty even with the exception of the Commanders. But we'll see with Sam Howell, right? He looked okay today. If he can play, all of a sudden maybe they're in the conversation. Obviously, you're not going to use a must-win for week 1, but this is a very important game.
For sure. Yeah. And again, we don't want to overreact to anything, but I think a lot of the questions we have about what this new look offense for Mike McCarthy is going to look like, we're going to get a little glimpse of that, which I think you can react a certain amount to that because what do we expect from Mike McCarthy? Maybe not the greatest of things. So we're going to get a taste of that tonight.
All right, let's talk the QBs, Claude, because that's what everyone wants to talk about, especially in big matchups, especially on Sunday Night Football. Dak Prescott against Daniel Jones. Let me give you some player props for Prescott first, and we'll get to Jones. Prescott, 243.5 passing yards, 1.5 passing touchdowns, 13.5 rushing yards. Over, under, no plays. What are we doing with Dak?
Where's the interception at? For everything I mentioned before and then wanting to run the ball more and be a little bit more conservative with him, I'm sure he has some sort of nerve too coming into this game, knowing everybody's talking about the interception issues that he had last season. I lean under on the passing yards. It's probably just to stay away from me, though.
Yeah, I'm looking at this 13.5 rushing yards, and my gut tells me, Claudia, that I want to go over that. But it's so low on Dak Prescott because he just doesn't run anymore, right? I mean, you remember when Prescott came into the league, he wasn't Lamar Jackson, but he would run. And then he got hurt, and he's had a couple injuries, and he's older now, and he's paid now. He, never runs anymore. So I almost feel like they're baiting me in to want to bet the over on the rushing yards, but I'm not going to do it. Even though I will say, I think the way this game will be played, the Giants will be getting after him. And so if he can escape the pressure, he may have a chance for a couple big runs in this game, but I'm going to stay away from that. Passing yards, I think I'm with you in terms of the under or a no play, 243.5. Not super high, but also not very low either. I just don't want to sweat it out. I think it could be right there. Here's where I think I will go over, though, even though I do believe it'll be a low-scoring game. Passing touchdowns. I think he could throw for 2 touchdowns in this game, and we still hit the under because I'm not convinced, as everyone else, that Tony Pollard is Emmitt Smith in his prime. Okay, Claudia? I mean, they run Zeke. They run Zeke out of town. He comes here, gets a lobster roll with Mac down at the seaport, in your neck of the woods, and they just hand the keys to Tony Pollard. I'm not convinced on that. I think Dak's going to need to make some plays tonight, so I'll go over in touchdowns. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Again, I'd probably stay away from anything Dak in this game because I really just want to see how he comes out of the gate. But you mentioned the rush yard prop. So his is at 13.5. Daniel Jones is 30, as high as 34.5 rushing, and I think those numbers tell you a story. And although Daniel Jones' number is higher, I actually love it. The only quarterbacks with more rush yards off of scrambles than Jones were Justin Fields, your guy, and Josh Allen. So like I said, that athleticism, what he's able to do with his legs, he had the 5th most yards per carry, almost 7 last season. So it is higher than Dak's rush yards, but I do trust Jones a little bit more because he's not afraid to run it.
I agree with you. I'll take over on rush yards for him as well, 32.5 here. By the way, 215.5 passing yards for Daniel Jones. I mean, am I crazy? It's a little low. I'm willing to go over there as well, Claudia.
It's low, especially when, you talked about seeing value in the Giants winning this game. I think it's going to be a tight one as well. There should be a decent amount of back and forth. So I don't think the jump should be that big from Prescott's number, 243.5, to Jones at 212 for sure.
All right, so we covered the quarterbacks. Now we have some questions that came into us that wants to cover the rest of the field. So we'll start with Tom. Tom asks, Brandon Cooks, over or under 44.5 receiving yards? What say you?
Brandon Cooks, I was so high on last season because he ate up the target share with the Texans. It was a really good spot for him. I am being very cognizant of players on new teams or rookie players. I was so high on Gibbs and Pacheco in week 1, and I probably should. I usually, I should, follow what I preach, because I tell people, wait and see. You got to wait and see what it looks like. The transition from college to NFL is different. Even veteran guys with a new team, it's just you need to get the chemistry going. So for all of those reasons, I probably just wouldn't play it. But I mean, he averaged almost 54 a game last season with the Texans. So can he get there consistently this season? Yeah, probably. I just wouldn't bet him in week 1.
Yeah, Tom, I'm going to practice what I preach too. I bet on Brandon Cooks a lot over the years for the 1,000 years he's been in the league and all the teams he's played for. I mean, he's played for damn near every team in the league, and he's let me down over and over again. So it's a stay away from me. Richie asked, more likely to cash their rushing prop, Barkley at 66.5 or Tony Pollard at 71.5? Where are you going here?
I feel like you made your case clear against Pollard, which I think Barkley versus any other running back, you're probably going to go with Barkley. Averaged 82 a game last season, which is a decent chunk higher than what they've lined it at here. And again, Pollard is expected, obviously, to take the bulk of carries. Was he gone now? He was very productive last season, but I don't know if I can ever bet against Barkley, so I'd probably go with him in this spot.
May the show say amen. I completely agree. I'm on Saquon here because he's a better player. Point blank, period. So that's the one that cashes. That's it for us here on NESN Bets Kickoff. But we're back at you next week. For Travis Thomas and Claudia Bellofatto, we'll see you then. Enjoy tonight's game.